Right, let's get into some news. We've got Sub Intel before the next music break. There's no Q&A tonight. Some fairly lengthy intel and the usual op-eds that will run similar to last week, and also a piece done by Randy Morgans will be featured in the op-ed pieces also. So plenty to look forward to. Right, let's get into some of what's gone on around the world. Mexico first. These are all linked in one way or another to a vast crime ring that involves agencies in this country and certain rogue politicians and elements. But the Mexico president this week has defended freeing the drug kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman's son soon after his arrest, when Ovidio Lopez was seized at a house on a judge's warrant in the city of Caleucan. Cartel gunmen fought street battles with the security forces, and at least 8 people were killed and 16 wounded, with vehicles left burning in the streets. And the president, Mr. Obrador, said the decision to cancel the arrest on Thursday had saved lives. Surely that security should have been beefed up. That would have saved even more lives and arrested the criminal. But that's the way things work in that country, where the president and the government officials, politicians, etc., are all under threats by these cartels. And the senior security officials had decided on his release. The president said at a news conference the officials who took this decision did well. He said, "The capture of a criminal is not worth more than people's lives." And a patrol of National Guard militarized police came under intense fire from a house on Thursday afternoon, and the security minister Alfonso Durazo said the security forces had fought back and found Mr. Guzman, but were then surrounded by gunmen and forced to retreat. Now, the defense minister, Mr. Sandoval, told reporters the operation had been badly planned, and 5 cartel members and a National Guard policeman are among the dead. Fighters also attacked security forces in other parts of Culiacan, and bodies were seen on the street. And witnesses described scenes of panic in the city, which is a stronghold of the Sinaloa cartel, as families with small children fled from gunfire. It's unbelievable. Perhaps one day there'll be coordinated efforts as a solution with militaries from America, Canada, and some other South American countries, and rout these people out. They're a cancer on society. Where are we next? Ukraine again, and more resigned people. Outgoing Energy Secretary Rick Perry said Friday that his plans to resign, spelled FIRED, are not related to the ongoing congressional impeachment inquiry into his role in the Ukraine affair, but because he wants to spend more time with his family. Yes, we've heard that frequently recently. Awful lot of politicians suddenly want to spend time with their family. Right, okay. And comments from Perry said he had plans to step down by the end of the year, and it came on the same day he and Energy Department lawyers told Congress they would not comply with a Friday deadline to respond to a congressional subpoena to provide information related to his work in the former Soviet Republic. Now, last week, the chairman of the House Intelligence, Oversight and Foreign Affairs Committees subpoenaed Perry to provide documents related to his role in the US energy policy in Ukraine and whether he was involved in decisions to withhold military aid. Now, Trump announced Friday on Twitter that he plans to nominate Dan Brule to replace Perry, and he is an Army veteran from San Antonio, Texas, and had previously worked in the energy sector, including as Assistant Secretary for Congressional Affairs at the Energy Department from 2001 through 2003. More recently, he worked as an executive for the Ford Motor Company and USAA. Now, as part of the impeachment inquiry, Perry had been subpoenaed to provide documents and about his work in the Ukraine and meetings with other officials in that region. And he had said previously he planned to cooperate with the congressional requests, but since then the White House has defied those requests because it regards the impeachment inquiry as illegitimate without an official House vote. Yep, that's the way this country works. All supported by the Portal people, as we all know too well. 4 drug companies this week have reached a settlement at the last minute to avoid a trial, seeking to blame them for fueling the opioid crisis. And details of the settlement with McKesson Corp, Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen and Teva Pharmaceuticals was announced on Monday morning. And a 5th defendant, Walgreens Boots Alliance, hadn't yet reached a deal on Monday, and it wasn't clear if Monday's trial would proceed with Walgreens as the only defendant. The settlements with the 2 Ohio counties put off the federal jury trial for the companies but fall short of a more comprehensive deal, which is currently being negotiated to resolve thousands of opioid lawsuits nationwide. Ukraine again, and this time former US Ambassador William Taylor, a diplomat who has sharply questioned Donald Trump's policy on Ukraine. Funny how they never question anybody else, isn't it? And has provided lawmakers with a disturbing account, it is said, of events at the centre of the impeachment probe. Lawmakers emerging after the early hours of the private deposition said Taylor had given a lengthy opening statement with a recall of events that filled in gaps from the testimony of other witnesses. And they said Taylor kept records at the time of conversations and documents. Now, Republican Debbie Wasserman Schultz said Taylor drew a straight line with documents, timelines, and individual conversations in his records at the hearing. And I do not know how you would listen to today's testimony from Ambassador Taylor and come to any other conclusion except that the president abused his power and withheld foreign aid, she said. Mrs. Wasserman flapping her gums again. Oh dear. Which means if she's flapping her gums like Pelosi and Anne, she's lying. Miss Wasserman needs to look closely at her own abuse of power, discrepancies and outright criminality before pointing fingers at others, methinks. You know, the sanctimonious arrogance of these people seems to know no bounds whatsoever, pointing fingers at others of what they've done themselves. It's a common theme these days. Nike has said Tuesday afternoon its long-time CEO, another one of the big CEOs going down, Mark Parker this time, effective of January next year, in a sign of the company's focus now on digital. And he will be replaced by John Donahoe, who is married to a former US ambassador to the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland. It's just replacing one with the other. Now John is a Nike board member and a CEO of ServiceNow, and he was formerly the CEO of eBay and a chairman of the board of PayPal. Now, Nike shares fell 1% in hours after the trading news, and ServiceNow tumbled 9%. Now, Parker, who has been Nike's CEO since 2006, has worked at the company for 4 decades, and he will become the company's executive chairman. All interconnected and very incestuous, as you can see. It's just a switchery of the same ilk of people. That's what goes on. They're involved in eBay, PayPal, ServiceNow, and Nike. All the same people, all on the same boards. Thailand, King Vajiralongkorn, sounds like a steakhouse, has fired 6 officials for extremely evil conduct, just days after removing his royal consort for misbehaving and disloyalty against the monarch. Now, the 6 includes a woman who was a senior police official and 2 royal guards, and they were accused of exploiting their official positions for their own or other people's gains. On Monday, royal consort, I'm not pronouncing that name either, was stripped of her rank and titles, and Thailand's lèse-majesté law forbids any criticism of the monarchy and carries a hefty prison sentence. Somebody if you could bring that in here, and you can't criticise the president. A load of Democrats would be going to jail overnight. Maryland Attorney General Brian Frosh has sued an apartment management company owned by the senior White House advisor and presidential son-in-law Jared Kushner, alleging it routinely used unfair or deceptive rental practices while running rodent-infested apartments in Baltimore and the surrounding region. Now, attorneys in the Consumer Protection Division of Frosh's office argued in a statement of charges filed Wednesday that Westminster Management and 25 other companies whose properties it managed have victimised consumers, many of whom are financially vulnerable, at all stages of offering and leasing their rental units in Maryland. Now, the companies committed hundreds of thousands of violations of consumer protection laws along the way, according to the statement. Yep, not good.